Hello everyone, NOKS. We've been talking a lot about these knife makers and we've reviewed a lot of their knives. And in my opinion, NOKS was the breakthrough of 2019. They used to be a brand creating quite dubious designed knives and quite dubious quality as for me. They turned into the pride of Russian knife making, and it's just not my opinion, that's what you're also thinking. In the end of 2019, we were filming a video with the statistics of the best sold knives in 2019 according to the Best Blades website, and they sold more than 10,000 knives. And NOKS took 2 places in this top 10, the Katran and the officer's knife. And in March, we made another video with the best sold knives in the winter. And NOKS was also there. Yes, it took the 10th place, but still it was the top 10. It's the Anaconda knife from D2 Steel. The statistics don't lie. It's not the opinion of some blogger. You were voting with your money. So well done, NOKS. And everybody understands they're doing great. And now, another knife from this brand. It's unusual, it has some controversial design and technical solutions, and it's not cheap. That's already not characteristics for NOKS. The Cougar, made of titanium. Let's analyze it bit by bit. The Cougar model of the knife is not new. In its traditional make, if I'm not mistaken, it appeared back in 2018. It was a steel linered knife, one of which doubled up as a lock, G10 scales and AUS-8 steel on the blade. They had also versions of D2 steel and even S35VN. And in general, I wouldn't call it anything special, at least from the point of view of materials. Everything's traditional for NOKS. But the knife has quite deep philosophical base from the point of view of design that Alexander Burikov, the designer, put into it. We'll talk about it later. Besides that, on the exhibition The Blade on Neva, which took place in St. Petersburg in 2019, the Cougar knife took the first place in the category of the best folding knife. All this made Cougar one of the flagmans of the NOKS knives. And as all of us know, the flagmans shouldn't have some strange G10. They should be made of titanium with a frame lock and so forth, which NOKS did. And in the beginning of 2020, they made a titanium version. Here's the big guy in all its glory. Yes, it is big. For example, here it is compared with the well-known beaver knife America. And if you want to compare it with the famous folders, here's the dagger, the military, Mr. Blade. That puts things into perspective, right? Cougar is not a small boy. 260 millimeters total length, and the blade is 122 millimeters, which is 10.2 and 4.8 inches respectively. The handle is made of titanium with the popular frame lock. Naturally, the titanium frame has to have a lock bar insert, and this one does. That's a small metal plate integrated into the titanium lock that prevents it from wearing down because of the contact with the harder steel of the blade. And the steel of the blade is D2, which is hardened at least to 5960 Rockwell units. But it's not just the titanium alone on the handle. On the other side, there's a G10 scale. One would think, G10 on a flagman knife? Yeah, it's disgusting. That's what I thought in the beginning. But then, it looks really coherent here. Besides that, it's much better to grip with the G10. And look how nicely the fiberglass laminate is chosen. At first, one would think that it's anodized titanium. By the way, the spacer is made from the same material. And in general, the symbiosis of different materials looks especially interesting inside the knife. So let's take it apart and have a closer look. The Cougar's pocket clip looks quite coherent with the design of the knife, but it does have some defects. First of all, I would bend it a little more so that it's easier to put on the pants if your pockets have extra protection, like mine. The second point is that it's too tough. I would want it a little softer. That's the disease of many NOKS knives. The knife also has a lanyard hole. That would seem not really needed here. The knife is easy to take out of your pocket. But there is a small detail with opening the knife with the mechanics as a whole. Speaking briefly, it's very hard to open the knife with a thumb stud. No matter how hard I try, you can even see what's happening with my thumb. So opening the knife with a thumb stud is quite problematic, even though it's the main system of opening the knife. The problem is that it's a frame lock, and if on the cheaper models they use a liner lock and it is possible to open it with a thumb stud, here you're gripping the frame lock and you're fixing the blade more and more, and it gets harder and harder to open the knife. So I found two relatively comfortable ways of opening this knife. With one hand. Two hands, no problem. So if you're using one hand, you can try doing like that with your fingers and then open it completely with a thumb stud. That's not the best way of opening it. Of course, the most convenient way is to open it inertia way. And when you're opening it with inertia, you will need a lanyard. Because again, I'm a little bit accustomed to it, but if you're just taking it out of your pocket and trying to open it with inertia, your hand will grip the frame and the bastard won't open. But with a lanyard, it's much more convenient. Your hand is somewhere here on the knife and the knife opens easily. Of course, if you do it nicely with a lanyard, with a nice flick, your colleagues in the office may soil their pants. But it's their problem. Someone has to cut the cake. The ergonomics in general leave no problems. Yes, sometimes the sharp edges can be felt, but that's the design. It's a little edgy. There are jimpings on the frame and on the spine for better grip. There's also jimpings on the back of the handle where the spacer is. The choil is made very interestingly. You can't even call it a choil, it's a full-scale cutout that lets you very comfortably hold the knife closer to the blade for some delicate tasks. The shape of the blade is standard. In general, quite classical. There's a swedge, the bevel starts almost from the spine. The only specialty is the fullers on both sides. Why? First of all, they make the blade and the knife lighter, and then they make additional stiffening ribs, which may be practical with its size. Now about the philosophy of this knife. What was the designer, Alexander Buryakov, aiming at while creating this folder knife? The idea was very simple. His philosophy was he tried to make a folding knife as functional as a fixed blade knife. And not just some abstract fixed blade, but he was aiming at a specific knife, the Jaguar from the NOKS. It is a junior brother of the Jaguar, but a folder. So, a quote. Cougar is a replacement of a base field knife with a fixed blade, in the cases when it's inconvenient to carry a fixed blade knife. Then they emphasize that it's not a full replacement of a fixed blade knife. It is a folder, after all, but its functionality is as close to a fixed blade knife as possible. What can I say about the Cougar? Okay, there are standard city folder knives. There are big city folders, which have a lot of fans, but also there are obscenely huge folders that are created mostly for fun. For example, the Cold Steel T-Lite 6 or another Cold Steel Luzon L or XL, the hugest one of those. You know them. Coming back to the NOKS brand, the most monstrous knife they have is probably the Avatar. The Cougar doesn't get into this category of just for fun knives. It's a big, powerful city knife. It sits well in your hand and in your pocket. Speaking about the convenience and the cut quality, with such a big blade, it's not a problem. I've been carrying it for a couple of weeks in my pocket, and I have no problems with it, besides these 2 points I already mentioned. First of all is the clip. You can resolve it with the pliers. And the second problem is the mechanics. And not the mechanics itself, the difficulty is the initial stage of opening the knife. If you've passed this stage, then it opens quite nicely. And speaking about the inertia opening, the lanyard will save you. What else? The price. I don't like speaking about the prices because it shifts, especially now when the ruble is falling down. But At the moment of making this video, the titanium Cougar costs about 10,000 rubles, $135. Is it expensive or not? It's for you to decide. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at, especially taking into account the size of the knife. Compared to its analogs from other Russian makers, it's quite cheap actually. Anyway, I would like to hear your opinion about this knife in the comments. And especially, it would be interesting to hear from you, what do you think about using such big folders in the city? Can they replace a fixed blade knife? That's really interesting. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button, and of course, the most important point, all the characteristics of this titanium Cougar, of the G10 model, Osate steel, other steels, the prices are at the link in the description to the NOKS website. That's it for now. Have a good one. See you online.
What does it matter? We're all